Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. And first of all, I want to say hello to the folks that are watching on Instagram. We're trying something new today to cast on Instagram live as well. So welcome. Say hello. Let me know that you're in the room if you're over on Instagram. Today is election day across the nation and also here in Massachusetts. And there are 4 ballot questions on the ballot. And we have the honor and privilege of discussing them with our own state senator-elect, Elizabeth Miranda, who will be with us in just a few minutes. And she's going to come in and talk about why we should vote yes on 1 and yes on 4. There are also 2 other ballot questions, question 2 and question 3. For my review, I'm inclined to vote yes for question 2, which basically gives some regulation oversight to the state around dental insurance. The other question 3, I'll be very honest with you, it's a struggle for me because my interpretation of it is it provides larger liquor stores a bigger or enhanced opportunity to have more what people refer to as chain stores in the community. First of all, we don't need any, my opinion, we don't need any more liquor stores in certain parts of Massachusetts. A liquor store is just about on every corner or every other block in Roxbury, Dorchester, or Mattapan. And so I am not necessarily presenting an opinion. Someone texted me and said, well, how are you voting? And I shared with them because they're a friend who checks in every election day and like, what are we doing? And so, question 3, I'm struggling with for the fact that I just personally don't believe that we need more liquor stores. The other piece is, despite that opinion about more liquor stores, there are mom and pop shops in our community that are liquor stores, and they also, sell snacks and juices, and, some of them sell food. Some of the bodega type stores, are now, selling beer and wine. There's an equity piece that comes up with this, not necessarily for the liquor stores, but you talk about liquor licensing and things like that. And so question 3, I probably will not fully decide until I'm in the voting booth. Speaking of the voting booth, if you did not know, and I'll say it again, today is election day. What plans have you made to go and vote? Let's check in the Java Cafe before our state senator comes in. Let's go in and say good morning. All right, Instagram looks good. Let's just go in and say hello this morning. I'm going to pop over the Instagram as well to see who's on there. Now, how do I get there, Jesus? Okay, let's go. It should be bringing up live. Okay. Look, my mother's bouncing all over the place, Jesus. All right. I don't know how to get to my live on Instagram. All right, let's see what happens. I can't navigate to it, y'all. I don't know. It should. I don't know. Anyway, let's go in the Java Cafe here on Facebook and see who's in. Pastor Marion, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Also, Miss Teresa, good morning to you. Glad you voted. Nicole, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Mama Java, good to see you in the room as well. Sister Debbie, good morning to you. Auntie Java, good to see you in the room this morning. Also, I think, let me catch up here. Sharon Cornelius, Sharon Cornelius, Sharon Cornelius. Good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. My brother Stan, good morning. Good to see you in the room as well. Tasha, good morning to you. Good to see you in the Java Cafe this morning. Daryl Drumright from Tennessee, good morning to you, sir. Good to see you in the room. Rena, aha, intentional self-care moment. Good to see you in the room this morning. Kenya, good morning. Good to see you in the room. So, question 3 isn't the proper reform for liquor licenses. Absolutely. It just, in thinking about, equity and mom and pop shops that are, trying to survive, it's an interesting process for them. And if these other chain stores come in, they tend to be able to buy product at a cheaper rate. So they have more, they can sell it for less. And so that's something we have to consider as well. But thanks for the clarity there. Opal, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Tay, good morning. Good to see you in the room. Auntie Java is giving us what she's voting. Yes, yes, no, yes. After reading closely, I did some reading as well. Listen, I did have our state senator a line to come in at 9:10, but it's 9:09 and she's in the room. And so I'll get back to saying hello to folks from Boston While Black, Denasia Yancey that's in the room, and others. Do me a favor and hit this share button as I bring in our state senator, Elizabeth Miranda. Good morning. Look at you, dolled up.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, everybody.
As a brother, and I'll text you this after because I want to see you at like 8:15.
Oh, you want to see me 10 minutes ago? Okay. Women, Black women, we could get ourselves together in 5 to 10 minutes flat.
In 2 minutes. So first of all, loving the red lip. We'll just attribute that to the, thank you for wearing the red in Java with Jimmy in the cafe. But first of all, again, congratulations to you. Thank you for your consistency, being in the community, and just making us aware and doing what you do around legislation. I'm so proud of you. I was just thinking earlier, there are some folks that have been in this for a while, and you have ascended in a manner that's a little more expedient than others. And it just is inspiring, with all due respect, Liz, to see your ascension and your growth and your evolution. So I really, really appreciate you. We have a limited time this morning. It is election day. And so why are we here this morning, Senator? Wow, Senator Miranda?
Well, first, I just want to say good morning to everyone in the city and those listening from across the country. I am Senator-elect, the Democratic nominee for State Senate in the 2nd Suffolk District, which includes neighborhoods from Hyde Park all the way to the South End Fenway. I am the first Cape Verdean woman in Massachusetts and Cape Verdean woman in the country, and the 4th Black woman ever in history to be serving in this capacity come January. I want to thank everyone. September 6th was our Democratic primary. It was an intense race. And I want to assure people, whether you're with me or not in the primary, I'm building a big tent and there's room for everybody. If there's one thing I've learned from being a lifelong community organizer and youth worker, it's that everyone has a role to play in addressing our issues and opportunities in our communities. So right now, the city is reeling. I want to take a point of privilege today. It is election day. Polls opened 2 hours ago and they close at 8 p.m. We definitely need to flex the vote, particularly younger voters who have recently become citizens, those returning back to society, and folks who normally don't vote and are not considered super voters. I just found out someone that we know and love very well is very sick. And I want to take a moment before I go into these questions for all of us to come together and pray for our brother, Jonathan Gates.
I was going to cover that at the end. And so thank you for raising that here.
He's been a dear friend. He's
yes.
Someone I've worked with in my former life, in my current life, and he's not feeling too well. And so all of us should come together and pray for him. He prays for our city and prays for all of us all the time. In non-traditional places and spaces. And so I want to take a moment to share that. But we're here today because midterm elections are incredibly important. Local elections are incredibly important. For folks that don't realize this, everything in our lives is politically connected. Where you live, where your kids get to go to school, how much you make, whether the environment where you live in is making you sick, whether or not you have incarcerated loved ones or folks that are returning back to society. All of that is done at the federal and state level, and then it matriculates to the municipal level. And so if we're not paying attention to who our governor is, our attorney general, who will be a Black woman, the first time we actually have a slate of constitutional officers that are all women. Our treasurer is a woman, potentially our auditor is going to be a woman, our lieutenant governor and our governor is a woman, and that's the first in Massachusetts history, but also the first in the country. And so Massachusetts is poised to make history today if we all go out and vote. And I'll leave with, we're here to talk about the ballot questions, but I actually texted you 2 voter guides that I find really helpful, James, that yes. I am voting a little differently than you, but I want to encourage folks to take the time to read the ballot questions. But the most important 2 things I want to say is that 1 and 4 are life-changing. The ability to have worked 10 years, 4 years in the House of Representatives on passing a bill that law enforcement supports. I'm not usually on the same side, but that we can make our roads safer by everyone being able to apply for a license, going to classes, and folks can get to school, to the hospital, and work. With question 4. And question 1, potentially $2 billion to fix our public schools system in the Commonwealth and our transportation system. We are living
our transportation system needs a fixing?
It needs more than a fixing. I mean, it needs a total overhaul. The general manager stepped down recently. Yep. One of the top 3 things that Governor Healy will have to work on is our MBTA system. It is not a world-class transportation system for a city that is world-class. And we've got a lot to do in the state, because you can't get to Springfield easy. There's a lot of places you can't get to New Bedford easy.
You can't get to the Seaport District easy. Let's raise that as well. So, yep.
So there's a lot of transportation challenges, and I want to encourage folks to understand that you can't talk about these issues in silos. Transportation has an impact on your job. Your job has an impact on whether or not you can afford to buy a home or live in the city that you love. And if you're not doing well or living in a safe, healthy community, it impacts everything else. And so I have shared those 2 things that I hope you can share online.
Yes,
because there are 4 ballot questions. And the second thing I want to share about how important the ballot questions are is we have a long ballot this year. It is 2 pages, both sides. And folks oftentimes give themselves only like 5 minutes to go and vote and can get frustrated. And the ballot is mostly in Spanish and English. And I represent a community where largely folks can be Cape Verdean or Caribbean or Haitian American. And so they have other challenges with the ballot and that we as English speakers don't have. And so if you have time today, I encourage everyone to do their civic duty and not only vote, but if you can encourage or help someone who's running for office today. I don't have an opponent. And so that's why
Say it again without smiling. Say it again.
I don't have an opponent, but I worked really hard for 10 months. Oh, I got lipstick on my teeth. Let me fix that.
I love you, Senator. Real
Roxbury. But the thing is that folks need to understand that this moment in time, and I want you to share, because most people that live in Boston have family elsewhere. The midterm elections with the governor of Georgia, with the Senate seats that are in Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania. These are states that we are all watching because they can turn the historical tide of America. And so if you have family or friends that are living in these places, I encourage you to also encourage them to go out and vote. What folks don't tell Black people is that we have the juice. The average voter in this country is a 66-year-old Black grandmother. And for those of us who aren't a 66-year-old Black grandmother, we have to join our ancestors and join our elders and ensuring that we continue to voice what we want. When you don't vote for people that you know can't work for you or work with you, it's a challenge. So thank you for sharing those ballot questions, voter guide. Tufts Center for Policy also did a really deep dive. And what I think is really important is to see what supporters are saying and what opponents are saying. And if you have your mail-in ballot, make sure you go to a polling location or you go to a ballot box and put it in the mail. It'll be counted as long as you put it before the end of business day today. But thank you. I see a lot of comments.
There are a lot of comments of support and love. Anthony Davis, who you know is on, we swing elections. We make up the margins. He also said, you definitely put in that work, State Senator. Kenya Beeman from Mattapan is agreeing with you that this is why we must read and understand in preparation. Before you came on, I did talk a little. 1 and 4 seem to be the big questions. 2 and 3, 2 personally, I definitely support because I believe it brings a different level of coverage. And also, some of us don't take full advantage of our, the benefit of paying those premiums. The other piece is 3 and with liquor stores and things, Senator, that one, I'm probably not going to decide until I actually get in the booth. But before,
and that's the beautiful part of democracy, is that we can have difference of opinions on ballot questions. I'm voting yes, and I think because of the expansion. One thing we know by being legislators is that equity is not distributed. And so in my opinion, my humble opinion, the expansion of things creates wider equity. And we know that, like, I grew up in a community, all the liquor store owners were Black. Now, mostly they are Yemen or Bengali or Dominican. And we know that many in our community still haven't had their slice of the Massachusetts pie. Massachusetts is a very wealthy state. 1 in 20 people are millionaires here. But when you have a community like Roxbury, where the average or median income is between $17,000 and $24,000, and in Dorchester it's 33, and if you move further along the Blue Halav corridor, it raises to close to 40. Nobody in the second Suffolk, or not many people, are making what it takes to actually survive in this city. And so I want folks to know that that is my number one goal. When I get into the State House, is ensuring that we really are starting to address the racial wealth gap and the gender pay gap in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because we're just not making the same money that we need to be making for the same job. I do want to say 2 things that I heard in the chat, if you don't mind, James. I think everybody's scared about our children's future. 1 in 3 Bostonians are under the age of 18. I'm a young person who grew up in the 90s in Roxbury. It was a scary, scary time. And then in the 2000s, the entire Cape Verdean community felt like it was at war. And so I grew up next to Orchard Park housing development, and Dudley Street, which is not the biggest street in Boston, was cut up like in 7 pieces. So, if you were from Windover, you didn't come over to my side. If you were from my side, you didn't go to Dudley Park. And to get to Upham's Corner, many young men used to just go around the community. And we don't want it to get back to that point. This weekend, 7 people were shot. 2 of them passed away.
2?
2.
Oh, yes, that's right, because Sunday and Monday. And we definitely, and I'm sure you knew him, we want to hold space for all of them, but definitely mentioning Jason Murray.
And someone who's worked in basketball my entire life. Jason Murray, was killed. He's a coach. He's a basketball player. He was killed outside of Tent City. If you know anything about the city, the South End was a hot place, but it hasn't been for the past 20 years. And so that was really unfortunate, that 4 neighborhoods in the city of Boston. So I just wanted Teresa to know that gun violence prevention, as someone who lost a sibling 5 years ago and have been losing friends since I was 17 and 18 years old, I understand the fear that is in our communities, and I'm going to do everything I can at the state level to change the way we legislate and change the way we fund our communities. The other thing that I saw here was Anthony talking about that we sway elections. I blame us. I blame the Secretary of State, I blame electoral politics for making politics about election time. And we shouldn't. It is bigger than election time. We should be stewarding the Black vote all year round, because every day when I'm in the legislature, and this is why I share so much online and through email and through briefings, is we're making decisions at the state level and at the city level that impact your everyday life.
That's right.
And so not only do you need to vote sort of like election time, but every month we're standing together as either a House of Representatives or a Senate chamber or the city council to make decisions that impact your life and your kids' lives. And so I blame us, and I hope that I'm able, Anthony with the Davis system is something I really respect and honor, because we spent a lot of time flexing the vote during the primary election, and it worked. We talked to younger voters. We talked to people returning back to society. We talked to elders and tried to make sure that they had the capacity to go out and vote. So
and you're
thank
speaking
you
to Stan's. Yes, ma'am. And you're kind of speaking to Stan's question as I heard you talking, how do we bridge the gap? And it is the other thing I want to say is and me and my activist space, thank you for your transparency, because the ownership around our Black delegation as a group around some things has not always been as contrite as you just demonstrated. And so that speaks to your realness and character. But no, I really appreciate you naming that, because that's been a critique as a whole, of our Black Boston or mass delegation or whatever. And so it is imperative, as you said, that we get out. I keep getting ready to call you rep, but it's so
okay.
Listen, technically you still rep, but listen,
I don't know what's up with this list, guys. I'm sorry.
Listen, you still look wonderful. But I'm saying, like, my hat gets crooked or my glasses are crooked. I'm like,
fix my head over here. Well, the thing I want to make clear is not every Black Massachusetts resident lives in a district where there's a Black elected official. Being in the State House for the last 4 years, I get people that reach out to me from Taunton, Brockton, New Bedford, Fall River, and you have white elected officials that are not feeling the pressure from their constituencies to do what they know they need to do right, and they're running and winning in minority districts. This is a big responsibility. With the 180,000 people, the 2nd Suffolk make the largest Black district in the whole state of Massachusetts. But I understand when I go to the State House that I'm a member of the Black and Latino caucus. And I just want to shout out that we're actually getting 8 new members. Sadly, it's only one Black member, which is Chris Worrell, who's taking my seat in the 5th Suffolk, which I love, my district. But we're gaining 2 Brazilian women, and we're gaining, I believe, 5 or 6 Latino men and women. So the Black and Latino caucus will gain 8 to 9 new members, and that will make us an even stronger body in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And for the first time in history, there will be 2 Black women senators and 2 Latino men senators, making 10% of the Senate body. Now, that's not a lot, but that is historic. And for us that have never had this sort of representation, not only between Latinos and Black people and Black immigrant people, we're going to be swaying a lot of things in the Senate toward our Black community, which is very diverse and not monolithic. Stan's question about bridging the gap, yes. We have to actually talk and respect young people. You can't be what you don't see. And so I spend a lot of time visiting high schools, particularly high schools and schools that I went to show them that you can grow up in a tough neighborhood. My father, birth father, was incarcerated and deported. My mother dropped out to have me and work in Boston hotels as a cook. She still is a cook today, as a working class, blue collar union woman. And so I bring that story to the State House and also to the streets to show them that I'm not a regular elected official, but I know that young people matter. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for mentors like Carolyn Crockett and Linda Montero and John Barrows. I wouldn't be here if not for teen empowerment and the Orchard Park Teen Center in my town. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have loving, caring adults that were not in my family who told me I could be greater than what I was hearing. And what I was hearing was that living in Roxbury, you can't make it out. What I was hearing was that, coming from a family where your parents didn't go to higher education, that maybe you couldn't go to higher education, that I would be a statistic and be a teen mom. So all of these things, get in the heads of young people, and young people are hurting, y'all. Hurt people. And the young people are demonstrating not only in their schools, but in community, that they are crying out for adults to focus on them, improve the quality of their education, their housing opportunities, their families. And so I think that how we bridge is we actually bring intergenerational conversations and pay attention to young people. When crime is happening to young people, when a 14-year-old is massacred during the day and a 16-year-old is shot in front of his house, when a 24-year-old mother and a 32-year-old mother are shot not too far from their children, we have a problem. When a 91-year-old civil rights icon is walking her dog in the same park that she's walked probably for 60, 70 years and is stabbed and assaulted, we are in a crisis, and it takes all of us. It doesn't just take faith leaders or elected officials. It takes everyone in community saying, no, this is not okay. This is not normal. And we're going to join hands and put our egos aside to help. And so, Stan, thank you for all the work that you've done in our city.
Yep.
Stan reaches out to me a lot, based on, the access to healthcare and dialysis and other things that our community doesn't get the best of. How do we actually improve that? And so, Stan, I've heard you, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
State Senator, thank you so much for coming and sharing the information. And thank you because you do engage off cycle. And so we really appreciate that. And thank you because there are two things I was going to raise at the end, and you already jumped in front of me. One was keeping Jonathan Gates in prayer. I was going to mention that to the audience. And two was, and you already spoke to it, is the sort of atypical and unusual. We have these increases, and I want to be careful with words, spikes. I don't want to use a lot of law enforcement terminology, but we have these increase and roller coaster of incidents. And it just is, I sense something in the air, Senator, that community is definitely frustrated and tired. But as much as you said, we do have to involve the community. We can have municipal accountability, but we also have to begin to have individual accountability and the village as well, because you, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama cannot go into somebody's home and teach a 3-year-old the value of life and parent. And so thank you for raising that, because and thank you for also saying that we all got to come together.
And we got to meet people where they're at. One thing that
right.
I don't like doing, and a sister in the chat, I think it was Tasha, the idea is like, are we really, we're lecturing to communities, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should be talking with community. And as elected officials, we actually should be listening. I'm a very teachable person. And when I walk into a room, I don't walk like I know it. I know everything. Because one of the things that we need to start realizing is that our community already has the answers. Our community just is looking for the access to actually, test out their ideas or come together. Like I always tell people, you're not talking to shooters. You're not talking to kids in DYS or DCF custody. You're not talking to the people that are incarcerated. Why not? Because if you go there, one, you will see the generational pain and trauma. Two, you will see that somewhere along in their life, something really terrible happened. If you look at the data, many of the young people that are currently incarcerated or have lost their life or been wounded in a shooting have had someone else in their family harmed. And no one came to save them. No one came. There was no therapy. There was no trauma services. There was no one to say, I know you're hurting. Can I give you an alternative, or can I show you a different way? And we keep going in a cycle here in Boston because we have so many resources in the city, but collaboration is not easy. People, I for one, I want to tell anyone here, if you don't like me, it's okay. I don't need a best friend, but what I do need is that we can work together beyond our personality differences. And I think that that is a huge, huge thing in our city where folks are letting personality differences or neighborhood boundaries or other titles and roles harm us because we're divided, and we don't need to be divided. There's already been 36 homicides in the city of Boston, although that is way less than last year and the years previous. For those 36 families and individuals whose lives are changed forever,
and the communities around them.
And the communities around them, because studies show that 100 people are impacted at least every time that there's a homicide. We know that there are now 3,600 people in our communities impacted. And we've got to come together and put our egos aside. And I, for one, will tell you that I don't have all the answers. But I do want to work with community to figure out how we fund differently. We've talked about this for many years. The Shannon grant, the SSYI grant, the gun violence prevention grant, are they being given equitably into communities that are suffering with gun violence? And are they working? And I don't think they are, because if we were funding at the level that we needed to and making the changes that we needed to, we wouldn't have these homicides. I also want to say that there is a crisis of high capacity weapons that are in our communities. And so you're seeing a lot more mass shootings, and you're seeing a lot more people die upon being shot or stabbed because the weapons are higher capacity. And so in 3 seconds, folks can let off multiple shots and harm multiple people at a time. You keep hearing about 3 people being shot, 4 people being shot, and that is why. And 2 weeks ago, a 7-year-old brought a gun to a school in Dorchester that he found loaded in his home. And so we have to do better as adults on protecting our young people. Now, that was found because he shared it with a friend, and that friend told a teacher. But if that friend had not told a teacher, we might have lost not only one young 7-year-old, we might have lost multiple young 7-year-olds and second graders at the Up Academy in Dorchester. And so we have a problem with guns, and we have to be real with ourselves that it's not just about the right to bear arms, but there's no reason that anybody in an urban area has a high capacity weapon. At least that's my opinion.
Listen, you are talking all facts, because last night on Parker Ave and JP, I seen a post from Leroy Peoples, as you know, that said, oh, they really let off. I think I saw something this morning, 14 shots. And so to that point, and we haven't talked. And so it's so interesting. One, you named something that Thaddeus named yesterday. We need to put our egos aside. Some people say that egos stand for edging God out. And so we need to put that aside. The other piece is you're speaking to the fact that we need to sort of heal ourselves. You know what I mean? Where municipal and state and county can support, but there's a element of the village that I believe that what I hear from you is that we need to get back to. The one other thing, and I know I had you until 9:30, and staff, let me know when you need to fully talk, but you are a woman. Yeah. And you see what's going on nationally. And Heidi brought up the point and said something that, let me find it, basically talking about she said every woman of childbearing age needs to have them happy self out and voting today. State Senator, is it can we take things for granted in Massachusetts? I text Brother Conan this morning. I said, sis is on the ballot today, right? And then I was like, yes, he said yes. And I was like, okay, I'm on it. And I was like, well, as if she needs it. And then I text him back and I said, you know what? I could hear you saying, don't take anything for granted. And so can you speak to how important it is that we not only be active, as you said, on election day, but through the year, but speak specifically to the issue of women's reproductive rights being at risk? And there is legislation proposed that would limit what states can do. So how important is it that we pay close attention to that as well?
So I'm a person that works a lot on reproductive justice. I'm a Catholic for choice. I work a lot on birthing justice because I see them intertwined. I can't remove my label of being a Black woman by taking away my womanhood or taking away my Blackness, right? And so I'm both. And a lot of folks have made this issue about abortion, but it's really not about abortion per se. This is about access to the reproductive health care that we deserve in our communities and have never received as Black women. They're not listening to us. They think we can take more pain. That is why even in Massachusetts, with the best hospitals, biotech, entrepreneurial industry on the East Coast and bio life sciences, that we actually, Black women are dying 2 times the rate of white women here. And regardless of how much you make, regardless of your educational background and where you live. And that's an important factor, because in most social determinants of your health, where you live, how much education you have, and how much money you make, usually determine that you have a higher quality of life. And so the fact that Black women are dying and our babies are dying 6 to 8 times that of white women is unconscionable. And so when I look at this issue about bodily autonomy and you having the right to choose, it's bigger than just abortion. It's the fact that government shouldn't be legislating your vagina or your womb. That's period, point blank. And this is not, this is why so many pastors and religious leaders are supportive. And we did codify the Roe Act. And then we further codified it when nationally they had these bans. And Massachusetts is a leader because a lot of people are coming to Massachusetts to get the health care that they're not going to get in Georgia and Texas and other states. But I just want to encourage Black women to understand that, and it's the fault of white feminists. The truth of the movement is that that movement has excluded Black women or different abled women, trans women, LGBTQIA people that speak different languages, people that are poor. And the white feminist movement has sort of like hijacked the reproductive movement. And it's made it seem that this is about a white college woman's desire to have an abortion, which it isn't. It is about us. It is about the fact that at 12, 13, in our communities, many of us do not have the health care that we deserve throughout our reproductive journeys, from puberty all the way to menopause. And so I just want to share with people, because I had a few sisters call me and they were like, when the Roe Act was happening, they were like, yo, why are you so vocal? I was like, because I see this as a continuum. It is racial justice work. It doesn't start, our lives don't start when we can give birth and not give birth. There's issues with endometriosis, fibroids, uterine cancer, the fact that pregnancy and infant loss is higher in our communities. I can go on and on. Sexual abuse, domestic violence, incest, rape, largely are happening in our communities, and we are keeping silent. And we need to speak up. Yes. We need to speak up for that 6-year-old girl. We need to speak up for that Black college woman who's not willing to share what's happened to her, because people don't listen to Black women in the ways that they don't prioritize us. If you think about how many Black girls and women we've lost, Jassy Correa, I could go on and on in the state of Massachusetts, when they go missing, the sense of urgency isn't there. And so this is why I focus on reproductive justice. And here's the thing. Massachusetts is not as liberal as it makes itself seem. We have an identity crisis here. This is why you can't take anything for granted. We tend to vote for Republican governors, and we send our most liberal folks to DC, because we tend to be like, hey, you could go down to DC and work on that. But then we vote for Republican governors that tend to be more conservative in the Commonwealth. And even though we have a Democratic majority here in Massachusetts, I'll leave us with this. Because we have a Democratic majority and we have 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, that means the diversity of who a Democrat is different. So you have people who are representing towns that are purple. They're Democrats, but most of those folks vote very conservatively. And so when you're positioned like me, ultra sort of, they call me the AOC of mass politics, but the idea is that I'm left because I have to go far left to be able to bring us to the center. We don't get to filing bills by just working along the lines that they make for us. If we want to pass police reform or any of the bills that I've been able to help pass in the House of Representatives, we have to go further to make sure that when we're negotiating at this location, right? And, you know, there's 200 legislators. We don't think the same. And you can't pass any law or get any money for your district if you don't work together. So I end there by saying, go out and vote, pay attention. I'll be back in January with you, hopefully, if I'm invited again, once I get inaugurated. Don't take anything for granted. Our Attorney General is a Black woman and can be a Black woman if we go out to vote. And we got to flex the vote, y'all. We can't just be like, oh, they're going to win and be okay. We've got to send a mandate. We've got to tell people across the state that we are with the people that we want to be with. And so even if you're tired today, bring your kids, bring your parents.
I got to call my mother when I get off of here. I got to pick her up to go vote. Thank God we're in the same polling location.
Yeah. You know, so flex the vote, y'all. Thank you so much. And hopefully you'll see me at different polling locations. Yes on 1, yes on 4, definitely. And I'm voting yes on 2 and 3, but you guys can read what we put in the chat to help you make the decision that works for you and your family. And that's how democracy works. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And have a good afternoon.
And I just want to mention to you, there are some preachers in the room that are with
Oh, really?
me. What she said was, no matter where you stand, that you need to get out and vote for everything that you was talking about. So shout out to Pastor Elder Heidi Ivy.
Hi,
Y'all need
Heidi,
to connect too,
Pastor
because
Heidi.
she does some finance stuff and she might, yeah, I'll connect y'all. Senator, I'm so proud of you.
Man.
Listen, I'm sitting here. Give me 30 seconds. To know you as a friend for all these years and see your matriculation and your maturity in this space. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, God. Well, I said something else, but it is just amazing. And so we send strength your way. You all put those hearts, put the praying hands and the arms in the comments, because Senator does go back and responds to comments and stuff. And so please put some support there. And thank you so much. And I may see you out there sometime.
Yeah,
too.
and let people know, you know, we should not be voting for people because we believe they're perfect. You know, many people expand when there's a calling on their life, right? And, you know, I hope that people offer me grace and offer me the room to grow into the woman that I want to be and the woman God has destined me to be. And I am not perfect. But the one thing that I will make a promise is that I always lead with my heart. I lead with love. I lead with integrity. I listen. I respond. I'm visible.
Right.
And I don't run away from difficult conversations. And so even if you don't agree with me, remember that this tent is big. This tent has room for everybody. And I'm so honored and proud to serve the 2nd Suffolk, and January 4th, be inaugurated as the 2nd Suffolk State Senator. So thank you.
Thank you. I know you got to go. I know that look. Thank you, Senator. We'll talk.
Bye.
That was our state senator, Elizabeth Miranda, who is going in, as she said, on January 4th to be sworn in. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Tomorrow, we will talk with the Lord Jesus. What is the name? We'll have a candidate from Troy, New York, that is coming and to talk about the new, I think, Jesus, I got to do better. The New Promise Project. I believe that is who David Abramowitz. And if you move in anywhere in development and community development corporations and fundraising and nonprofit work, David Abramowitz is coming into the Java Cafe tomorrow, along with Stephen Figueroa from Troy, New York. So let me just get the name of the project right. Okay. It is called the New Power Project. So they'll be with us tomorrow morning at about 9:20 at 9 a.m. Pastor Willie Broderick is coming in to talk about the wonderful opportunity that if you know some folks that are looking for a job in the biotech industry, please make sure you share this information with them, that on Thursday from 9 to 3 p.m. at Roxbury Community College, you're invited. Let's bring Roxbury's talent into the job pipeline in 3 sectors: biotech, life sciences, healthcare, and green and blue tech. And so please share that information with someone that's looking for employment or wants to expand their employment Willie Bardrick will be with us at 9 a.m. And Stephen Figueroa, city councilman out of Troy, New York, will be with us. And also David Barmowitz of the New Power Project. I'm tired. Liz wore me out. She preached, y'all. I mean, preached. All right, Ma, I will call you in about an hour to get you to get time set up to go vote. Kenya, thank you so much. And while we have Kenya on here, I mentioned the other day, Kenya, you weren't on, but you and Ms. Shillingford have been in proactive contact with me. I just owe Kenya an email to set up a time for us to meet and just know what we're going to know where things are, so we can set up the time for the interview with the application and share that with you and all that other stuff. And so they're a little behind of the November 1st date that we discussed in September or August, I believe. But they have reached out and text. And so I'll get the email to you, Kenya, today. So we can get scheduled and have that conversation. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And Teresa, I'll send this to her. The piece about putting the lipstick, putting the Vaseline on your teeth so you don't get the lipstick, but that red was popping. Y'all know I love red. Nicole, I'm going through some changes. Not so much branding, but just getting some things in order. And so we should have, I don't know if we'll have the hoodies in this hoodie season, but definitely t-shirts and stuff by the spring. I do have 2 hoodies left. They're extra large. And so just from looking at your picture, I can't tell here, but I think an extra large would swallow you. So, but let me know. And we got a few candles left, y'all. We got a few mugs left. And so I got some stuff to do to get caught up with some things. Anyway, it's Testimony Tuesday. And my testimony is I am blessed and highly favored because of you all. And we're still building this family and increasing it and enhancing it. There's some things coming in January, y'all, that are going to be very, very interesting. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Pastor Willie Bardrick and also City Councilman Stephen Figueroa, and also the founder and executive director of the New Power Project at 9:20 a.m. Have a great day, everybody, and we will see you soon. Peace. I messed up messing around over on Instagram and trying to end that. Let me get off here. Y'all have a good day, and we'll see.